All right. Well, let's just go ahead and jump in. We wanted to talk today about what's called the hidden job market, and I don't know if you've heard of that term before or not, but I think the hidden job market is probably the most effective way that you can go about looking for a job. And a lot of people, when I was first in the job search, I had never heard of this concept before. So that's what we want to talk about today is how do you tap into this hidden job market? And so the first question you're probably wondering is, what is the hidden job market? And I'm glad you're asking that. So this picture, I like this picture a lot. This iceberg, that's a great representation of what the hidden job market is. The part of the iceberg that you can see, the part above the water, that would be in the job market. That would be all of the jobs that are posted that you can see, like on Handshake, or if you go to Monster or Indeed. Those are all the job postings that you can find online or maybe on company websites. But you guys know about icebergs. I mean, we're from the Texas Panhandle, so we obviously know about icebergs. But underneath the water, there's a huge piece of ice that is this iceberg that you can't see. I mean, and it's much larger than the part above the water that you can see. That's what we refer to as the hidden job market. So the hidden job market are jobs that aren't posted online. They're openings, but they're not visible to anybody. If you go look for them, you're not going to be able to find them. And kind of an incredible statistic on this is that they say that like 70 to 80% of all of the open jobs are in the hidden job market. I mean, and so you can't find them. So they're not posted anywhere that you can find. So that's what we mean about the hidden job market. So I want to talk just a minute about, let's just think about the life of a manager, somebody that's managing people. And this is as good as I could do as far as like demonstrating what happens over the life of a manager. So over here on the left, you see her over here and she's happy, right? Everything's going great. So she's happy. And then as time goes on, as we move from left to right, she's happy, happy, happy. And then something happens in the life of a manager that causes her to be unhappy. And I just want you to think, what would it be if you're thinking about a manager? What is the thing that probably is the biggest frustration or the biggest challenge for managers? And I think I'm hearing you say, like recruiting new people or filling an opening. And you are so smart. That's exactly what's happening because you see our picture here, our manager, she's happy, happy, happy. And then over here on the right, when something happens and she loses her smile, what happened was an employee came up to her and said, "Hey, I found another job, so I'm going to be leaving." Or maybe she had to fire somebody that if they just wasn't working out. Or somebody said, "Hey, my spouse got a job in another state. We're going to be moving," and so she has a vacancy. And that's what makes managers unhappy is when they have a vacancy or they don't have a full team. That's a really frustrating part of being a manager. And the reason that's frustrating is because when you don't have a full team, I mean they still have the same amount of work that they have to do, and so that means everybody has to work more, including the manager. And then also she has to go through this whole process of trying to find somebody to fill that slot, and that's not always easy to do. So we're going to kind of walk through what this manager does. She's lost somebody, and now she has to figure out how to get that filled. And before we do that, I wanted to show you this other slide. Um, we did a survey very recently to employers, and we just asked them the question, how do you recruit? And I wanted to give you a couple of observations about this slide, and these were the answers that they gave us. But one observation that I wanted to give you on this slide is that these aren't mutually exclusive. These responses that the employers gave us, these employers do many of these, if not all of these at the same time. So, and the one with the highest percentage, I think it's posted on a company website. You see that's almost 90% of the employers said they did that. the one with the highest percentage doesn't necessarily mean that that's the most effective. That just means that a lot of them are doing it. Another observation that I wanted to give you about this slide is that, posting on a company website, you see that at 90%, and then posting on an external job board like Handshake, for example, that's easy to do, and that may explain why a lot of employers do that. And also, a lot of companies, HR will require the manager to post this at least on their company website for sure. But also notice that this solicit referrals from the network. And what that means is that's just managers talking to people they know, their friends, just anybody they know, and looking for candidates that might be good. Notice that that's high as well too. That's not required. Companies probably not going to make a manager, use their personal network to fill a position. So it's not required, but it's high because it shows that it's effective. A lot of managers do that because it works. And it's kind of, and I tell students this all the time, people hire people that they know or have some type of connection with in some form or fashion. That's just how people are. I mean, that's just human nature. People are going to hire people that they are connected to in some form or fashion. So that it's interesting that that solicit referrals from network is as high as it is because it's not required. And the other thing, the last thing that I wanted to point out here is that soliciting referrals may be a way to choose those who apply online. Employers will pull referrals out of the pool of people that apply online they receive, because they got a tip on that person. Candidates who apply online and don't have any type of referral, there's a really good chance that that employer may never see their stuff. And one quick little story, and then we'll move on. But a few semesters ago, we had this manager from Bell. Used to be Bell Helicopter, it's just Bell now, and they were on campus, and we had lunch, and I was visiting with this guy. He managed this engineering department at Bell, and he was telling me that there's this place on the Bell website where people that apply for jobs in his department, it all goes to this one online place. And he said there were hundreds of applications in this place online that are people that are interested in his department. And he told me a couple of things that were really interesting to me. One, he said, I'm busy. I mean, there's like 200 applications in this place, that I can go look for applications. I don't have time to read all of these. I mean, I have another job that I have to do. There's no way I'm going to read all of those applications that come my way. But what he did tell me, which I thought was pretty eye-opening to me, he said, but if somebody tells me that somebody applied, or I have a connection with one of these people that applied, I'll go find their stuff. I'll go to that place online, I'll sift through those 200 applications, and I'll find that person that an employee told me about. And the other kind of cool thing that he mentioned, he said, if a student applies and then they call me and say, hey, I'm a WT student, engineering student. I just applied online. I just want to make sure that you got everything. I'm really interested in this job. He said, if people follow up with me like that, he said, more times than not, I'll go to that place online and I'll go find their stuff and review their application. So that was really interesting to me. And if he's like that, I'm sure there's other managers that are like that as well too, that are getting tons of applications and don't have time to go through them all. So if you have a referral from somebody, your chance of them pulling your stuff from the website is a lot greater. So anyway, I thought that was just interesting over that survey that we did with employers. But let's get back to our manager that she lost an employee. And so the first thing that she's going to do to try to fill that position, she's going to use what's called an informal job search. I mean, she's not going to just immediately post it online or paid a newspaper to put it in their ads online or in the physical paper. That's not going to be the first thing that she does. And the first thing she's going to do is this informal search. And what an informal search is, it's simply trying to fill the position without posting it, without doing anything formal. And the reason why managers do this is, one, it's a lot cheaper. You don't have to pay to have it posted online someplace. It's cheaper to do that, and they're also more likely to get high quality candidates. Because if an employee tells them about somebody or their friend tells them about somebody, I mean, they're going to tell them about people that they really think would work for that position, right? So it's cheaper and they get better quality candidates. And the way they do this, the way they do the informal search, they talk to their employees, they talk to their friends, they'll mention it to their family. Maybe they're a part of a professional association. I mean, they'll talk to anybody and everybody that they can and just say, hey, I had this person leave. Do you have any ideas? Do you know anybody that might be good? And the interesting thing about this informal search is that's successful like 70 to 80% of the time. I mean, it works a lot of the time. And that's why on the previous slide, we saw that, soliciting referrals from a network to be so high. A lot of people do that because it works. And the other interesting thing to know about this informal search is like when they go and they poll their network for potential candidates, they usually come up with maybe 4 or 5 people. Typically, is they're going to get 4 or 5 referrals that they'll find just from talking to their network. If I'm one of those referrals, I'm probably going to be competing with like 3 or 4 other people for that job. you know, I like my odds if I'm competing against 3 or 4 other people, right? I'm not perfect by any stretch, but against 3 or 4 others, I mean, I've got a decent shot of getting that position if that's the pool that I'm competing against. So that's the informal search. So that's the first thing that our manager is going to do when she has this position that she's going to fill. So let's say that she does this and it doesn't work. She does everything she can do and she just can't find anybody to fill that position. So if that happens, she's going to do what's called the formal job search. And so this is where, okay, I've got to start posting it. I'm going to pay a newspaper website to put it online. I'm going to, whatever I need to do, I'm going to have to post this in as many different places as I can. And one thing that a manager, she's going to have to do at this point is she's going to have to write out a job description. Because, employers that want to post in our database, they're in career services and Handshake. I mean, the first question we have for them is, can you send me the job description? I mean, or do you have a job description so you can post it on Handshake? So you got to write a job description in order to post it formally. And when they write that job description, that's bad for job seekers. And the reason why it's bad is when a manager writes that job description, they're going to write it for the perfect candidate. I mean, they're going to put every qualification they could possibly want, they're going to put it in the job description. I mean, I would love to have somebody that has 5 to 10 years of experience. They're going to put that in the job description. And so they're going to write this job description for the perfect candidate. Okay. And that's bad for me as a job seeker because I'm not the perfect candidate. And when I measure up against the job description that they write, I'm probably not going to meet every criteria that they put on that job description. And really nobody will, because there's probably not the perfect candidate for that job. So it's bad for us because of that. But the other reason that it's bad is, when statistics tell us that when companies post online, on average, and especially I would say probably for larger companies like Bell, for example, that manager I talked to, when they post it online, they get on average 250 applications for that opening. So remember on the informal job search, they got like 4 or 5 different people, right, to consider. Now, if I apply for this job, I'm one of 250 that are applying for this position. I mean, I'm good, but if you put me in a pool of 250 other people, I mean, there's likely to be somebody that has better qualifications than I do out of that 250. I mean, my odds of being the number one person out of 250, I mean, probably not super great, So anyway, so if I apply in a formal way, I'm the pool that I'm competing against much bigger. So much harder for me to be selected when the manager does a formal job search. Okay. So we want to tap this hidden job market. And the way that we do that is we want to talk to the manager when she's in the informal internal job search. And but the problem with that is, I mean, how do you ever know when a manager is in that job search? I mean, because they're not posting it anywhere. I mean, they're not making it public knowledge that they're looking to fill this position. So it's hard, if not impossible, to know when the informal job search starts. So what our idea is in terms of tapping the hidden job market, I think the key is to always be talking to businesses. I mean, if you're always in conversation with businesses and learning about new businesses and talking to people that are doing things that you're interested in, I think eventually you're going to stumble across somebody that's in an informal job search. Um, this has been a while ago, but this peer of mine, he used to say this one thing that I thought was so profound. I always like this, but he always said, if you're always in the right place, eventually it's going to be the right time. And what he means by that is if I'm always talking to businesses, if I'm always reaching out, trying to make connections, I mean, I may do that, one week and I talk to 10 different people and nobody knows of anything as far as an opening or anything like that. But if I continue to do that and continue to talk with those employers, eventually, I mean, it's going to be the right time. And I'm going to stumble across somebody that says, oh, so and so told me that she's looking. I mean, I just heard of somebody that left this company. You might check there. And eventually, I'm going to stumble across somebody that's in the informal job search. So here's some ideas about just how to talk with businesses, because sometimes I'll talk to students and they're like, yeah, that makes sense, but how do I talk with businesses? I don't even know how to do that. How would I go about doing that? And here's just a few ideas that we've brainstormed and put together, and I'll touch base on a couple of these, not all of these, but one of them that I really like is this concept of informational interviewing. And I don't know if you're familiar with this concept or not, but what informational interviewing is, it's interviewing, but you're not really interviewing for a job. You're interviewing somebody for information, about what it's like to work in that job or what it's like to work in that industry. So, and just real quickly, I'll give you this example. A long time ago, when I was interested in higher education, somebody told me about this idea. I didn't know about it, but somebody told me about this informational interviewing idea. And they coached me. What they said is find some people that are working on college campuses that are doing jobs that you just think are interesting and call them and see if you can talk to them and learn more about their job. So what I would do is I would call somebody on a college campus, and I was a complete stranger, and I would call them and I would say something like, hi, my name's Steve Sellers. I'm doing some job research on what it's like to work on a college campus. Could I meet with you to discuss that? And since I was a stranger, I had to tell them two really important things really quickly. One is I had to tell them I am not applying for a job. I don't want to fill out an application. I don't want to turn in my resume. I just simply want to visit with you about what it's like to work on a college campus. Because when I called them, that's what they thought I wanted, was a job. And I I did want a job eventually, but at that moment in time, I truly did just want to know more about what they did, what they liked about their job, that kind of thing. The second thing that I would tell them really quickly is, I know you're busy. I don't want to take a lot of your time, 15 minutes. That's all that I need. And I would offer to buy them a cup of coffee. I'll meet you at Starbucks, whatever. And I called a few people, and quite honestly, some people, everybody was nice to me, but some people were like, listen, I just don't have time for this. But I kept calling, and eventually I would get some people that would say, yeah, okay, sure. I'll meet you for coffee or come by my office and we can visit. And so I would go to these informational interviews, and then I would sit down and I would go and I wouldn't wear my jeans and flip flops like I would, wear to class, but I would dress like business casual. I would go and I would have this list of questions that I would ask the employers. I would ask things like, "What do you like about your job? What do you not like about your job? How did you get interested in working on a college campus?" And I had this whole list of questions that I would ask them. And you know this as well as I do, people love to talk about themselves. And so my 15 minutes, I mean, turned into 30 minutes or 45 minutes because I think people enjoyed telling me their story. And not that And the other part of that is I was really, really interested in what they were saying. So, when somebody's interested in what you're saying, I mean, you like to tell your story, and that was my experience with these informational interviews. So I would go through my questions, and at the very end of my interview, I would say things like, "So if you were me and you wanted to break into working on a college campus, what would you do?" And not everybody had, earth-shattering tips, but some people had some good, cool things to say. Sometimes people would say things like, "You should talk to so and so because I think she may have an opening." And so I would jot that down and I would follow up on that. Or one guy told me, "You should join this professional association because you get access to all of these job postings if you do that." So the reason I'm telling you that big long story is, why couldn't you do that? I mean, why couldn't you find somebody in the field that you're interested in and do an informational interview? I mean, you could. I mean, I'm an introvert, and so it pushed me out of my comfort zone to have to do that, but I wasn't, permanently scarred for life for having done that. I mean, and eventually I did a few of those, and a lead that I got from an informational interview did lead me to a job. I mean, it took a while, but it worked for me. So anyway, that's one idea for talking with businesses. And we have information in career services. We can help you with what kinds of questions to ask and give you ideas of people to call, all kinds of stuff. So if you're interested in that, we would love to help you with that. Some other ideas real quickly. You can participate in our mock interview program. We do that every month. What a wonderful way to meet employers. And we do that in person or via Zoom. We do these mock interviews. You can meet employers, plus you can polish your interviewing skills. I would do that every month if I was really working to try to meet as many people as I could. Attend job fairs. We have job fairs every long semester. Super way to meet employers and to have conversations with them. um, I would develop a top list of employers that I'm interested in and contact them. Um, you know, Instead of looking at just the job postings of what you see on Handshake, what if you started doing some research and just tried to figure out maybe the top 5 employers in the city that you're interested in being in, the top 5 employers that you just think are cool, they do work that you really like, or it's just super interesting, you really like that company. What if you made a list of those employers and then started to reach out to them, or started to see if you knew somebody that worked there or had a connection in some form or fashion? So that might be a way to kind of learn and talk more to businesses. Traditional networking, I mean, talk to your family, talk to your friends, talk to your professors, anybody and everybody that you know, and just tell them the kind of job that you're looking for. I would love to work on a college campus, or I would love to work in aerospace engineering, or in social media management, whatever it might be. So you could do that. Volunteering is a great way to meet people. I would encourage you, you got to get off of campus and do some things in the community. Maybe it's volunteering at some organization that you really think a lot about, and you meet other people that can give you connections in the community. Um, Update your social media with your mission. I mean, if you're interested in making a big difference in education, put that on your social media. If you're wanting to make an impact in the financial services world, put that on your social media. Professional associations, you can talk to us in career services. We can give you ideas of those, related to your major. Your professors are going to have ideas of professional associations. Chamber of Commerce events. Every community has what's called a Chamber of Commerce that promotes business in that community, and they always have a wide variety of networking and meet and mingle type of events that you can go to. What a great way to meet people in the community and start learning about businesses or people that can help you in your job search. And then the last idea is just follow companies that you're interested in on LinkedIn. And start using LinkedIn to see if there's graduates from WT that work at this company, or people that you know in some form or fashion. That's not all of the ideas for talking with businesses, but those are a few. But I would really encourage you to implement as many of those as you possibly can, because the more you can have conversations with people in the professional world that are working in the industry that you're interested in, or just in the community that you're interested in, the more likely you're going to stumble across somebody that's in that informal job search. Okay, let's keep going here. In this poll that we did for employers, just a couple of weeks ago. We asked them for job search advice that they would give to graduates. And what I did is I took their responses and I developed this word cloud off of their responses. And I don't know if you know how a word cloud works, you probably do, but the bigger the answers that are bigger, more employers said those answers. So, see, research companies was a huge piece of advice that our employers gave to those of you in the job search. And as you research companies, and I would highly encourage you to do this, and this kind of ties into that developing your top list of employers. But as you research companies and you just start trying to find companies that you love their mission, you love what they're doing, you love the work that they do, as you find companies like that, you're more likely to come across people that, maybe alumni that work there, friends that work there, professors that know people that are there, and you're more likely to start making connections. So I would encourage you, instead of just looking at job postings all the time and just applying to everything that looks interesting or that you can, I would focus more on companies that you truly have an interest in, that you truly think the work they're doing is cool. That comes through to employers. If you're really, really interested in what they're doing and you reach out to them and you have conversations with them, that interest, that passion comes through. So I would really encourage you to um, take heed to that research company's advice. And it's kind of fun, and I can send this PowerPoint to everybody that's on this presentation, and it's kind of fun to look at all of these pieces of advice that they gave. So um, and then one other thing I wanted to point out, and one of these is like, be yourself, be honest. And there's a lot of them talked about passion and things like that. People are attracted to interest and passion. One of the employers in one of these comments, and I kind of put these comments together in common, themes. But one employer, he put it like this. He said, "I want you to care about something, anything other than yourself," because he just wanted people that are interesting and they're interested in different things. And I thought that was just an interesting response that he gave. So, all right. So, and here's some other resources that we have, and then our contact information. So our idea for tapping the hidden job market is just talking to businesses as much as you possibly can and making those connections. And just realize, I mean, I think it's fine to apply for jobs that are posted online. Absolutely. If you see something that you're interested in, absolutely apply for that. But realize that there's a whole host of jobs that are available that are not posted on Handshake or any other website that you're looking at. And so I would encourage you to do research in your community and start making those connections to try to uncover some of those open positions through just connections that you make with people in the business world. So reach out to us if you want to brainstorm on just specific job search strategies, or if you want to talk more about how do I do some of these talking to businesses type things. We would love to talk with you about that. You can make an appointment with any of our staff in Handshake, and we can meet with you via Zoom, in person, whatever the best way to connect is. We would love to do that. So anyway, I hope that's helpful, and I will send this PowerPoint to those of you who are on the call right now. And I hope that's helpful, and we wish you the best of luck in your job search. Thanks.